Welcome everyone to the Rutgers Jewish Film Festival. I'm Karen Small, I'm the director of the festival and delighted to have this opportunity today to speak with Maya Sarfaty, the director of the film Love It Was Not. Let me just mention how this afternoon is going to work. We are in a webinar style, so the audience is muted and we don't see each other. You see us, we don't see you. I'm going to start off with some questions for Maya, focusing a lot on her filmmaking and about the interviews and the process of making the film. And then we will take some questions from the audience. So please, if you have a question, write it in the chat. And then we'll be monitoring the chat and we'll pose the questions to Maya in the second part of the program. So feel free to write your questions in the chat. The chat button is located at the bottom of your screen. If you're on a computer screen and an iPad, you may have to click on the three little dots and it opens up more and you'll see the chat option there. The program is also being recorded and will be available on the Bildner Center's website for people who, I'm sure you have friends who haven't seen the film yet, but will be watching it this week. It's available all week in our virtual cinema. So Maya, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time and really appreciate your film. It was just an amazing effort and we were thrilled to include it in our festival.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm very, very happy to be here, to talk to you. Very happy to be part of the festival. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, it's really our pleasure. So the film starts with a photo. Right, and it's a photo of Helena in Auschwitz, not the type of photo from Auschwitz that we are used to seeing. And her son even mentions in the beginning, what is this photo of her smiling? So how did you find the photo? How did that come to you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was among Helena's belongings. I believe it was, I start differently. In 1972, Franz's wife is sending a letter to Helena asking her to come and testify in Franz's trial in Vienna. And at the end of the letter, she writes, "I'm sending you 3 photos from Franz. One of them is the picture you mentioned, the picture of Helena from Auschwitz, which Franz took himself.
Okay.
There was one collage picture, the one that is in the start of the film. And the third one, we don't know. The third one is missing. We don't know what was it, if Helena destroyed it, or it just got lost. I don't know, but we don't have the third pictures. We have only these two, and this is the way the picture I got it, and Helena first had it from Franz's wife. Yeah.
So I wanted to also mention that originally you had made a short film on this topic called The Most Beautiful Woman when you were in film school, I believe, is that right? So Maya was in film school, graduated from the film department at Tel Aviv University. And was this your film, your student project, the film?
Yes, my final project. It was my second degree. My first degree is in literature and women's study. Yes, The Most Beautiful Woman is my final project. It's a 32-minute film. It's a very different film. It focuses on the second generation. I brought Dagmar, the daughter of Franz, I brought her here to Israel. And the climax of the film is the meeting between Dagmar and the children of the survivors. I can tell you, Sarah, it was a very, very dramatic meeting between them all, especially between Mickey. She's the daughter of Rosa, the sister who lost her children. So actually Mickey lost her brothers, her sister Aviva, the 6 years old, and Gideon, the 3 days old baby boy. So between them, between these two, Dagmar and Mickey, it was the most intense between these women. The film won the Student Academy Award in 2016, and we've been to LA. And after that, we continued to the full-length documentary that you all just watched.
Right. So once the short film was so successful and so intriguing, you made the decision with your team, it sounds like, to then make it into a longer film.
Well, my main team is my husband.
Okay.
He's also the producer of the film. But actually, while I made the short film, I already knew I wanted to do another film that will focus on the historic story and not the second generation. And we'll have a big, and I will give a bigger attention to the trial, all the trial in 72, and the events, the actual events of the war in Auschwitz.
Right.
So it was quite clear to me.
So how did you first hear about Helena Citron and Franz Wunsch? How did you know about this story?
Well, I already mentioned Mickey, the daughter of Rosa. Yes. She is my link to the story. She was my acting teacher and my dance teacher when I was just a child. She's my artistic mother, I would say. We have a very close relationship. She's a very good and close friend of mine. I know the story of her mother and her aunt, the Citron sisters, since I believe I was something like 8 or 9 years old, something like that. And along the years, I tried to do all kinds of things with it. I tried to write it as a novel, or at some point I tried to write it as a script. But it always felt wrong because the story is so big, so unbelievable. So when you try to write it in words, it's like no one will believe it. It's not possible. So I left it, and 6 years ago, when Mickey and I contacted Dagmar, and we learned that she's very curious and very open and willing to participate. And when she gave me his diaries, her father's diaries and her father's testimony, so that was a moment, opening my laptop and finding an SS officer sitting in his backyard in his shorts, talking freely about his past.
Yeah.
That's a moment in your life. But when I got these materials, I realized that finally I have the means to tell the full and the complete story. And I realized that documentary is the right medium to do so. And
so she sent you his diaries that she had kept all this time.
She sent me parts of his diaries and parts of his personal testimonies. I can only imagine what's in the parts I haven't got, considering that in the testimony I do have, there are a few sentences that are quite harsh. But if she sent it, I believe it was for her like the easy parts. But eventually he sits there and he talks about Mengele, this is pure evil.
Yeah.
Mengele. And he speaks about him with a smile.
His friend who he confided in.
Yeah, his eyes are sparkling, like admires him.
Yeah. Did
So
she tell you who took who was took the the home video?
I know her husband and herself.
Oh,
Her husband, at some point, he wrote, I would say, a novel that was published in private. I'm missing the words. I'm sorry. In a private.
a publisher?
Yes, thank you. And for the writing process, he took the testimony as part of the research.
Uh-huh.
And at some point in the film, you can see her sitting by Franz, and she's when she's getting up, you're like, here she is.
Right. Right. Yes, she was sitting right there. Yeah.
Yes, she's sitting all along there. Yeah.
Just incredible. So here at Rutgers University, we have a Holocaust Resource Center, and we teach teachers about using testimonies in the classroom and first-person accounts, as really primary documents. And just watching your film and thinking about the testimonies that you were able to access. Can you tell us more about the research that you did to find the women who had talked about the relationship in their testimonies?
Yes, well, first of all, one of the biggest challenges I had is that my three protagonists, Helena, Franz, and Rosa, when I started working on the film, they all were already gone. So I had their testimonies. Helena's testimony is from the Shoah Foundation by Steven Spielberg. Rosa's testimony is a personal, private testimony of the family. And Franz, of course, I believe you can see, it's a home video testimony. So I did have their testimonies, but still I wanted to ask questions. I couldn't understand, what does it mean, a relationship between an SS officer and a Jewish girl in Auschwitz? What does it actually mean? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it mean? Mm-hmm. So I started looking for survivors who can remember and can tell me. So what I did is that in 2016 and most of 2017, till I was pregnant, in my pregnancy, I said, stop, I need to stop now. I sat in the Yad Vashem archive in Jerusalem and listened to hundreds of testimonies, of women testimonies from the first transports who worked in the Canada facilities, hoping that they will mention the story. I was quite pessimistic when I started, because I said, okay, who would talk about another survivor's story in her own story, in her own testimony? But actually quite a few of them did. It was such an extraordinary story, even back then in Auschwitz. Mm-hmm. So quite a few of them mention it. It was a terrible period for me, sitting in the archive, listening day after day, hour after hour to these terrible, terrible stories. And you think you've heard the worst, and then you listen to another story and you're like, wow. Yeah. But there were also moments of light, at least from a scriptwriter point of view, because as I mentioned already, quite a few of them did mention the story. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was like kind of a window. I could look into history, into the past. I was able to locate 7 of the women and to interview them myself.
Oh, wow.
All other survivors in the film are the product of the very, very important efforts of Yad Vashem Archive and the Shoah Foundation testimonies, recording projects. And
talk to them as a group ever, or were they always individual?
No, always individual. But it's interesting that you're mentioning it, because I call them, all the women in the film, except Helena and Rosa, I call them the chorus of the 1,000 women. And for me, they are the 4 protagonists of the film. There's Helena, Rosa, Franz, and the chorus of the 1,000 women. Yeah. Just like in the classic Greek tragedy, when the chorus is telling the story and unfolds the story, same here in our film, but with one big difference, because in the Greek tragedy, the chorus speaks in one voice, and here the whole point is that each and every one of them brings a different voice, a different gaze, a different opinion, a different everything. And I truly love them. They are beautiful women, very brave, honest, nasty. They can be nasty, and empathetic, and they are beautiful, and I truly do love each and every one of them.
Yeah. Had they stayed in touch with each other after many of them came to Israel?
Yes.
Had they stayed in touch?
All the women I interviewed, except one, that she's no longer alive. Yeah. Unfortunately, but she lived in Toronto, in Canada. But I interviewed her here in Israel when she came to visit the family. All the other interviewers in the film were based in Israel or still based in Israel. From the archives, I do have testimonies from Austria and Netherlands and Germany and all kinds of places in the world, but the ones I interviewed all lived in Israel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And did they keep in touch with each other once they came to Israel?
Helena had a group. They called themselves the Auschwitz group, and they used to meet once a year and to sing and to bring memories up. And 2 of the women I interviewed occasionally came to these meetings, not regularly, not every year, but occasionally came to these meetings, but all the other no. Mm-hmm. No.
Okay. And they all, someone just asked a question in the chat, so I think it's very relevant here in terms of the women who worked in the Canada area of the camp. Do you know, or can you tell us how were they selected to be in that area, which was a more privileged place to work in Auschwitz?
Well, actually, there were a big part of the women who worked in the Canada facilities were Slovakians, naturally, because the Slovakians were the first transports to Auschwitz. So they were the oldest in the camp, and they had the most experienced in the camp, and so they were able to get the best jobs, the ones who survived.
Right.
But no, I don't know what was the exact selection process to the Canada facilities. I can only say that a big part of the women were Slovakians, like Helena. Yeah.
Like Helena, who came early. Yeah. And it's just talking more about the women, it was so interesting how they talked about love in those interviews.
Well, it's a big question in the film,
Yeah.
I have 2 answers for that. The first one is I'm not sure we can really speak in terms of love when we talk about the relationship between an SS officer and a Jewish girl in Auschwitz, you know.
It's never an equal, I mean, nowhere near an equal or normal time. So.
No, and you can't really speak about free will because, you know, could she say no?
Yeah.
What was that an option? Even an option? So I'm not sure you can speak in terms of love at all. I do know for sure that he loved her madly till the day he died.
Yeah.
And I do have a very, an interesting episode about that. Helena tells that the song that she sang at their first meeting in his birthday party was Liebe war es nie. It was never love, exact translation, but she translates it to love it was not, and I'm going with her translation, and that's the name of the film. Love it was not.
Sure.
In his diaries, Franz tells that the wording of the song that she sang at that moment were, "My heart is homesick for your love." So her version, "Love it was not." His version, "My heart is homesick for your love." To be honest, I'm not sure that neither of the songs was the one that really she sang at that moment. But I think we can learn a lot about the way, at least the way they wanted the world to know about their story, or the world to remember their story. So her version and his version, it's a very different versions.
It's just incredible that he wrote about it in his diary and that he wrote about her in such an open way.
Yes, you know, Dagmar is telling his daughter that her picture was scattered around the house for most of her life as a young girl, and afterwards as a young woman at home. You know, it's your father has pictures all over of his first love. So he spoke about her quite freely along the years.
I mean, an obsession, really. It's no question.
No question. No, you know.
An obsession with her.
He cut her head from the picture and placed it on different backgrounds and different clothes. I believe it was a way for him to imagine the life they could have had together.
Right, to see her in a more normal setting and his fantasy.
You know, if you're talking about obsession, well, there's nothing. It's like in the movies when someone is obsessed with someone and he cuts his pictures, you know.
Yeah. Well, so that is a great segue to talk about the art in the film.
Yeah, it is.
Right, and the cutouts that you used to illustrate the film and to make so many different points in the film. Can you tell us more about the art, your decision making to go in that direction, and who the artists were behind it?
Well, I had two big challenges making this film. The one is to find the testimonies that I already talked about.
Yeah.
And the second one was the art in the film, because cinema is a visual art and you have to show something. And this is not particular to me, but any documentary filmmaker who wants to make a film about Auschwitz has the same problem as I did, because there is so little footage, and the little there is, the little that survived is so known and so worn out, you know, it doesn't evoke our feelings anymore. Sad to say, but to be honest.
Yeah.
and I have to show something. I don't want to make a film that is all talking heads, because and I looked for the language of the film quite some time, and it also was like in the movies. At some point, it was the middle of the night. I just woke up with the knowledge of how I should make it, and I woke up near my husband, the producer of the film, and I told him, I have it. I know how to make the film. I know what we should do. And he was like, great. I'm very happy to hear about that, to hear that. We talk about it in the morning. No. Now you're gonna listen to me. And yes, I realized that the answer lies within the story. And just like Franz did these photo montages of Elena in order to see the pictures he wanted to see, I decided I'm going to make photo montages in order to see the pictures I want to see within Auschwitz, right, and after in the trial, of course. I worked with two wonderful Israeli artists, Ayelet Al-Benda and Shlomit Gofer, and we borrowed the technique from France and developed it. And we made this 3D multi-layered photo montages. I would say we called it 2.5Ds because each layer was still paper cut. So we called it 2.5Ds. I would love to show you some pictures. One moment. Yeah. So in the first stage, Ayelet, she made in Photoshop 2D photo montages. It was all used, we used only real archival photos from the period, from the camps and the war. In the second stage, Shlomit, which you can see here, cut the pictures and placed it on a stage model, like you can see here. And in the final stage, we took it into the studio and filmed it with classic cinema equipment, cinema camera. We used all kinds of techniques. Originally, it was supposed to be only 10 minutes of the film, but as we started working, we had so many ideas to work with water and with fire and to shoot it from up and from down and from. So we had so many ideas. So eventually, as you know, it's half of the film was made in this technique, and it was all handmade and had this rough feeling. I stopped sharing, yeah?
Yes, you stopped sharing.
Great.
Yeah.
And this rough feeling, you can see the cuttings, you can feel that the paper, it was really important to me because I thought that in this way, the audience will be able to distinguish each and every moment in the film between an illustration, an imaginary illustration of mine, and a real valid historical documents. Because there are also in the film real pictures from Auschwitz at the time. This is one. And is we based our illustration on testimonies and very thorough research, but still, this is an imagination.
Right.
And I don't really know if where I placed her is the place she stood and who's standing next to her, etc. And the figures themselves, besides Franz and Elena, all other figures are random, not even survivors, because some of them probably haven't survived because it's all real archival footage. So it's an imaginary illustration. So it was very important to me that the audience will be able to distinguish between the two.
Imaginary, but so deliberate.
Mm.
Each step of it, so
Yes.
deliberate, which is so important to a film like this, that it is your imagination, but based so much in the reality of the time and the place.
And I can say that
story.
The survivors who watched the film gave me the stamp.
Stamp of approval?
Yeah, approval. Thank you for the word.
Approval, yeah.
I got the approval that it really is accurate regarding all the details of the buildings, the way everything worked, and Auschwitz in general.
What was Mickey's response to the film? Mickey, just to remind everyone, is Rosa's daughter. Is she her adopted daughter?
No.
She's her daughter, okay.
When Rosa came to Israel, she was sure she won't be able to give birth again. So we married a widower with 2 children, but happily she did got pregnant, and she had Mickey and Mike.
Okay, so 2 more children.
2 more children, yeah.
Right. So what was their response to the film?
Well, Mickey, it's very harsh to see your mother,
Sure.
the story of your mother, and with illustrations, watching to know the story, and then to see it and to feel it, and to have these colors and all the information. It was quite not thrilling. I'm missing the exact word, but it was very emotional viewing for her. But she really loved the film, and she's really proud of it. Same goes for Israel and Billy. They are the children of Helena. All of them very proud at the film, and are very happy to know that people are watching the story of their mothers all around the world. With Dagmar, France's daughter, it was a bit more complex. It was very hard for her to watch the film.
Was she in Germany when she saw the film?
No, she's not. She's Austrian.
She's Austrian, excuse me.
Originally,
yeah,
but she doesn't live in Austria for quite a while, for a few years now. Her children, some of our children are still in Austria. She had a very complex viewing, and she was, I would say, she even got mad at some point, but eventually she admitted that the film is fair regarding her father, telling all the good things he did, helping Helena and helping her sister, and risking his life more than once in order to help her, and also the bad things he did. He was a sadistic SS officer in the bottom line. So yes, people are telling how he bet them and their friends, and mainly the men, but also there is this woman in the film that tells that he broke her pelvic.
Oh, he kicked her, yeah.
Kicked her so hard that he broke her pelvic. It's like, wow. And I can say that after a very thorough research in Austria regarding the trial, I'm quite sure that France had a regular part in the selection. I'm quite sure of it. So he was an SS officer in Auschwitz. He was a sadistic SS officer in Auschwitz. And I must say, we're already talking about it, that his character, the ambivalence in his character is one of the most fascinating things for me. One of the things that drove me to tell this story, to make this film, because I think that the fact that you are not only bad or only good, and that evil and pure can live together, it's very important for us to remember and to know about what happened and about ourselves today. It's a very important knowledge, I think, that evil is very human.
Yeah, well, it really showed. He was a human being. He helped her and her friends, but had this whole other horrible side and was a Nazi guard. Yeah.
And he never regretted anything, you know, Sarah? He never regretted anything. Dagmar is telling in the short film, she's telling that he used to meet comrades. And he had Mein Kampf in his home. And, you know, in one of his love letters to Helena, he says, there is this sentence that blows my mind every time I'm watching the film. He says, if we had only won the war. And you're like, yeah.
What
do you think would have happened if you had won the war?
Yeah.
And you are like, but you love a Jewish woman. You love her deeply. You're madly in love with her. How can it be? How can it be?
How can it be? Yeah. It didn't seem as if he ever talked about them running away or escaping together in any way. He seemed at one point resigned that they were losing and they were going to be separated. Did you ever hear of anything else? Did the diaries reveal a different story?
At some point, he tells her there are two versions, her version and his version. In the film, there is her version. Most of the time, I'm choosing her version. In the film, she says that he passed a note to her telling her, I will take you out of here, and that she caught herself and told herself, how can you even think about it? You're a Jewish girl. And she just, she's saying no, this is her version. In his version, in the diary, he tells that he did a reversal with a female comrade in Auschwitz, and that the reversal didn't went on. They were caught. So he didn't escape Auschwitz with Helena.
Oh, a reversal, meaning that Helena would change clothes with the female?
He had a plan how he will give her other clothes and they will get out of the camp. So he did the reversal, not with Helena, but with a female comrade friend of him.
A rehearsal.
One.
Yeah, a rehearsal, okay.
And just to check if his plan can work before, because if it doesn't work, both of them are dead, of course. Mm-hmm. And when the reversal went wrong, nothing happened because both of them were SS officers and they were able to get out of the camp. Nothing happened.
Right.
But you realize that his plan can't work and they just gave up.
Yeah. Well, you know, thinking about Franz's diaries, his journals, and then later the trial. And I'm just thinking about, you know, how much was he writing, knowing it might come to light later? Because there is a sentence, something in the film where Mengele says, we'll all be prosecuted. So that seemed to be in the back of his mind, that somehow.
Also, Helena is saying that when they said their goodbyes, in the Birkenau gate, when Elena went to the death marches, according to Elena, he told her that, I'm not sure what's the exact wording, but it's something like, if at some point I will need you to help me,
Yes,
will
that's
you
right.
come to help me as I helped you?
Right.
Meaning,
Right.
if I'll face a trial, etc., etc., etc.
Right.
And I can say that from reading the diary, the parts I do have, it's quite obvious that it's a diary that was written with the knowledge that someone will read it.
Uh-huh. Which puts it in a different perspective, really.
Yes, it's a kind of, I don't have the words in English, I'm so sorry. I'm much more eloquent in Hebrew, I promise you.
Oh, it's beautiful, don't worry.
And it's a way for him, the diary is a way for him to say, I'm not guilty, I'm innocent, I did nothing wrong. These are the people I saved.
He can tell the story the way he wants to in the diary. He can spin it, right, in his favor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And when he did go to trial, was the diary used in the trial? Do you know?
No, the diary wasn't used in the trial. He testified himself in the trial, and but no, the diary wasn't part of it.
Mm-hmm. And someone asked, so just to clarify, he was not charged?
No, he was acquitted.
Yep.
But I would say it was quite obvious that back then, Shimon Wiesenthal and Hermann Langbein, by the way, I have a little story about that. Hermann Langbein is the father of Kurt Langbein, and Kurt is our Austrian producer. He made the film with us. He was our Austrian connection. So Kurt's father, Hermann Langbein, along with Simon Wiesenthal, were Nazi hunters in Vienna. And they brought to the knowledge of the Austrian authorities about more than 60 SS officers who lived freely in Austria back then. More than 60. Only 4 of them were brought to trial. All of them were acquitted. And Franz Wunsch chose trial. Our officer's trial was the last trial who was held in Austria.
Uh-huh.
Just to get a perspective,
in
Germany is still hunting her war criminals till today. Old and almost dead, but Germany is still looking to charge them. Yeah. Austria, 72, the last one.
Right.
And on the personal note, I would say that Helena's testimony in the trial, it was a big dilemma for Helena whether she should travel to testify or not. It was a big dilemma, but I don't think that her testimony in the trial made a difference at all.
Well, clearly not. Right?
I don't think that if she would say different things or wouldn't come at all, the outcome would have been different. And I can say that I read her full testimony, and she did say everything, the good and the bad, all the good things and the ways he helped her, and all the bad things she knew. And yeah, she had a very little influence.
well, they weren't really interested in convicting them, right?
No.
Long time to go to trial. There was plenty of evidence. There was, I thought I read something about they brought up the statute of limitations as a reason. It was too long to pursue them. They weren't really interested in, as you said, there were so many Nazis and only 4 who were even brought to trial.
And you must remember, this is a jury trial. So
Jury trial.
Who is the Austrian juries?
Yeah. It's 1972. Is that right?
1972. These are her parents. All their parents were part of it.
Yeah.
So it's an issue, and there was also a legal loophole that made it possible to acquit all the 4 of them, but it's not even the issue. The issue is that Austria never wanted to face her past or to take responsibility. I think that today the 3rd generation is, for the first time, is willing to look into the past and to really know. Yeah. And actually, this is the most you can ask, because you can't blame anyone for their parents' deeds, actions. You can take them as responsibles for that, and they shouldn't be. As I see it, the only thing that you are responsible, both sides, the victims and the predators, is to know what happened, to remember it, to face it,
to recognize it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and a film like yours helps to bring that along and to help people look at it in a different way. Absolutely.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. I'll just remind the audience to put your questions in the chat if you have any. I've been incorporating them as we go along. Maya, tell us, where is the film going next? So I don't know if we announced this, but it opened, I believe, this weekend at the Quad Cinema in New York City. You don't know this, but we're located very close to New York City. We're just about 50 minutes from New York, and here that's very close. So it just opened in the city. We are showing it all week in our film festival in the virtual cinema. Do you know where it's going next?
Well, hopefully, it's a very harsh time, COVID-wise, to theaters and for cinemas. We truly hope for a nice attendance in the cinemas, so we'll have another week. This is our second week in the Quad.
Okay.
So send your friends to the
That's
cinema.
right.
We need them.
Right. Tell your friends. And there was a big article about the film last week in the Forward newspaper, which I think most people get online. I don't think there's a print version anymore, but that's available online. So you can send that on to your friends so they can read about it. People are asking, is The Most Beautiful Woman, the short film, available for people to see? Is that available any place?
It's on Vimeo. I can send you, Sarah, a link so you can send it over.
Oh, that would be terrific.
If you wish, I would love to do so.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, we would. A few people asked if there's possible to see the short film, and we'll try to find a way to limit, not just to put it out there in the world, but if you'll send it to
you can just send it.
Oh, terrific. Okay, that's very generous of you. Thank you.
So the film Love It Was Not won the Aviv Film Festival here in Israel last year. So yes, in the start of the COVID, it was
2020. I guess?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So that qualifies us to run to the big Oscar.
Oh, fantastic. So you'll be Israel's nomination?
No, the foreign film has each country can send one picture, one film, and this is the fiction films.
Oh, okay.
In the documentary, it's a bit different. You have several festivals in the world that if you win them, you are qualified to enter the documentary section. And the documentary section is not only American and foreign. No, it's all together. So yes, we are facing Amazon and Netflix and very big companies with big marketing budget. And we have what we have.
Yeah.
But the best we have is a very good audience. And that's the main thing you want.
Absolutely. Well, good luck. That is fantastic.
Thank you.
We hope to see more about it. Yeah. Okay. Any, I don't see any last questions here. Maya, any last words you'd like to share with us? Anything else about the film or the making of the film, or about, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Rosa, who we didn't really get to so much. But any last, anything else you want to share with us?
A year ago or something, in one of the Q&A, someone asked me if I never met Helena and Rosa. All my life they were just next to me, and I never actually met them. I've been to Rosa's house only after she died. I went to consolate Mickey in her home, in her shiva. And this is the first time I've been to her home. And someone asked me if you could have met them, Helena and Rosa, what you would have asked them. And I thought, and I was like, how can it be that I don't have the answer about that? What would I want to say? And the honest answer is that I wouldn't want to ask them anything, but to make sure that they are proud in the film, and they love it and approve it.
Right.
The families, everyone in the family says they would have been, but I would really want to hear it from them.
If they approved of the way that you presented the story and both of them. Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. Fascinating. Okay, Maya, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being with us today. I know you're super busy, and you know it's so great. There are a few last questions here, but I'll just ask this one. If you're working on another film now, but I feel like you're so involved with this one, it's just really, but you tell us, is there another project?
I'm just finishing my maternity leave with my second child. He's 6 months old. I have also a 4 years old daughter. Both of them were asleep the whole conversation. Thank you.
Very good planning.
So I'm just finishing my maternity leave, looking for a nanny actually. So if anyone knows about a nanny in Tel Aviv, please send it to me, her to me. I do have some projects on my desk waiting for me. One is a documentary about dance in Israel. One is a documentary series about education. And I do work on fiction scripts about the relationship between an elder woman and a young boy. And I'm not sure what will be the project I will go back to,
Right. Oh, fascinating. We had
But
a
I know it won't be about the Holocaust because I really need a break.
need a break. We had a fascinating speaker here this year, an Israeli Gili Hammer, who was working on dance and disability in Israel, integrated dance.
Yes.
Which is just fascinating. She gave a lecture for us
Nice.
via Zoom. Yeah, really interesting. Well, so many interesting topics, so many things to tackle. We look forward to your next project, but we wish you well with this one. And
Thank you very much.
Your time. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Just to remind you, we're in the second week of our festival. There are films available all week through Sunday, as well as 3 in-person screenings. Tuesday at the Princeton Garden Theater, and next weekend, 2 films at Rutgers Cinema here on campus. We look forward to seeing you there. We have more filmmakers joining us throughout the week from Israel and around the world. So we look forward to that as well. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you, Sarah. It was great talking to you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.